If you feel lost right now, this message was chosen for you. The universe chose you to see this before your next awakening. Let that land for a moment. Let the phrasing touch you like a small, warm current running through a quiet room. You were not lost by mistake. You are being summoned to something new. You might be carrying that fog. Small decisions feel heavy. Pleasures that used to satisfy now miss their mark. And the plans you once trusted look like maps drawn for a different life. That nausea, that quiet grief under your ribs, is not evidence of failure. It is the sound of an old map tearing. When a map rips, the traveler feels exposed. The path becomes unclear. But a ripped map can also mean that the terrain beneath you has changed, sometimes because you have changed. Notice how simple things no longer fit. You wake up and the routines that once anchored you feel brittle. Conversations with people you used to understand slide past like a language you no longer speak. You might find yourself withdrawing at odd hours, or suddenly fascinated by ideas that would once have seemed foreign. You might feel more sensitive to noise, to energy, to the subtle shifts in other people. These are not random symptoms, nor are they weaknesses. They are signs. You are shedding a shape that no longer contains you. This is the core truth you need to hear. You are not broken. You are outgrowing a way of being. The inner machinery that once kept you steady, habits, stories, identities, was never the final version of you. It was a scaffold. And scaffolds are meant to come down when the building grows beyond them. If this is landing, if even one sentence is tapping on the place in you that already knows, tap, like now. Let that simple action be a marker. You choose attention. You choose to return to this message when the noise grows. That is enough for now. Imagine your identity as a map. For years, you navigated from the same set of landmarks. A job title, a relationship role, a set of beliefs, a script of who you are when you walk into a room. That map served you. It saved you energy. It promised a predictability that made life easier to manage. And then, slowly, the landmarks shift. A road that once led to safety is blocked. The river is no longer where it was in the map. The compass spins. The inner matrix, the patterns, the conditioning, the stories sewn into your nervous system begins to dissolve. Because something else is calling you forward. The future self you are becoming, a version of you who holds a clearer frequency, a steadier center, begins to send signals. Those signals are not loud proclamations. They are low-frequency notes, subtle impulses that nudge the muscles of your attention. They arrive as intuition, as a sudden yearning, as an inexplicable no when everything else says yes. Think of the future self as a timeline that stretches ahead of you like a river. From that river, a small current pushes backward. Soft, persistent messages carried on the water. These messages find their way into your chest as warmth, into your throat as a small tightening, into your mind as an idea that won't let go. It is not magic in the theatrical sense, and it is not arrogance. It is the natural pull of a potential you can resonate with. The universe, or the field around you, aligns with that potential and nudges you. The language here is symbolic, but also practical. When your inner frequency matches the contour of that future timeline, you begin to feel its echoes. So what does this feel like in daily life? You might notice your interests change. Music that used to soothe now feels hollow. The friends you once turned to for laughter don't reflect your deeper questions. You might feel an odd grief, an emptiness that arrives like quiet mourning after a house party. Grief often shows up when something precious is being released. But this grief is not only loss, it is clearing. Imagine an empty room with dust-silver air and a single beam of light. In that emptiness, you can finally place new furniture. In that emptiness, a new arrangement becomes possible. You may also experience bursts of clarity, a sudden image of how you would like to live, a memory reframed, a decision that arrives like a key. These flashes are not random. They are early transmissions from your future self. They come as feelings, not as arguments. Logic will try to discredit them. Logic will line up reasons to stay with the old map. That voice is not your enemy. It is the part of you that has been responsible for survival up to now. It has useful data, but it will often speak in the past tense, referring to what worked before. Intuition speaks an invitation. It whispers what feels true for what could be. This is why you are likely to feel torn. One part of you, let's call it the current self, holds a ledger of all the ways you made it through tough moments before. It has dates and receipts and hard-won strategies. Another part, the future self, begins to hum with a different ledger, one of possibility, nuance, and alignment. The friction between them produces discomfort. Resistance, right now, is friction more than fault. It is the sound made when old metal meets new metal. That friction can burn, yes, but it can also forge. When the old matrix collapses, the collapse leaves a core space. Call it a void or call it a womb. There is a difference between emptiness as absence and the void as fertile silence. The void is not the same as giving up. It is a space intentionally cleared. Nature uses empty seasons. Winter sharpens root systems. The dark quiet before dawn prepares birds for song. In your inner calendar, this void functions similarly. It is where the future self begins to form, not as a concept, but as an embodied frequency. Many people rush to fill that void. They buy new things, start projects, call people they used to avoid. Filling is understandable. Pain is uncomfortable. But the invitation here is to practice a different orientation, to allow the emptiness to be what it is long enough for a new frequency to settle. That does not mean doing nothing. It means refusing to confuse movement with momentum. There is a difference between busy activity that distracts and small intentional acts that align. You might try small practices to anchor this waiting, a simple breath that becomes a check-in, the soft noticing of sensation in your chest when an idea rises, the tiny habit of pausing before you agree to something that doesn't feel right. These are not prescriptions, they are invitations. You are the authority of your life. The point is to create micro-conditions where the signals from the future self can be heard more clearly. As the void becomes a womb, sensitivity increases. You notice synchronicities, the same symbol appearing in different places, a conversation that lands on the exact question you were holding, a chance encounter that feels orchestrated. These coincidences are not always cosmic interventions in the literal sense. Sometimes they are simply alignment, your inner frequency tuning to possibilities and noticing opportunities you would previously have missed. Synchronicity is a mirror. When your inner world shifts, the outer world rearranges to reflect it. That rearrangement might look like doors opening, or it might look like the dismantling of structures that no longer fit. Both are part of the same reordering. Sensitivity can be disorienting. As you open, the world can feel louder. You may be more affected by other people's moods. You may feel drained in rooms that once energized you. That is a signal to cultivate boundaries, not to shut down. The new frequency needs discernment. Discernment is not judgmental control. It is a gentle, wise listening. Ask yourself, what is mine to take in and what is not? There will also be a thinning of certain relationships. People who once matched your rhythm may fall away simply because your tempo has changed. This isn't punishment. It is natural selection of the soul. Imagine a radio being tuned. As you slide the dial to a new station, the old station fades. The station's music doesn't cease to exist. It simply doesn't align with your current ear. Be kind with this process. Grieve the loss if grief is present. Honor the shared ground you once had. And do not mistake separation for failure. As your sensitivity grows, the messages from your future self become less abstract.
They arrive as impulses, an urge to write a sentence, a sudden curiosity about a subject, a calling to step into a moment of service. These impulses are small calibration points. They do not demand you quit your life or make dramatic rearrangements overnight. They ask you to test, to experiment. Try an impulse on like a garment. See how it fits. Notice whether it vibrates in your chest as truth or as a costume. You may also encounter resistance disguised as advice.
Well-meaning people, friends, family, colleagues, offer rational counsel founded in love. Their words may be true for them and not for you. Learn to filter input through your felt sense. You are authorized to say no. That no can be tender. It does not need to cut or punish. It can be simple. Thank you. I hear you. Honor what you hear inside more than the loudest opinion outside. Inside this field of change, there are practical bolts of light. The future self sometimes speaks through clarity flashes, sudden knowing about what is next. When a flash comes, treat it like a seed. Plant it gently. You do not have to light the whole garden at once. Break the vision into next small steps. A step could be a sentence written, a morning where you pay attention to how you feel, a boundary set in conversation, a book started and not finished for the purpose of taste. The point is to move in alignment, not to prove anything to anyone. Let us return to the metaphor of timelines. Time is not simply linear in this experience. The future you leaks backward like early light. It colors what you notice. When you live as if the future is already tenderly calling, you begin to inhabit small flavors of that future now. This is not pretending, it is rehearsal. Actors rehearse to embody a character truthfully. You are rehearsing to embody the next version of yourself. This rehearsal is not a performance for others. It is private practice. Your inner life needs rehearsal because the nervous system responds to repetition. Small, consistent acts change the brain's wiring. The future self becomes less a fantasy and more a habit. When you do this with kindness and patience, external life aligns with less resistance. Doors shift. Opportunities that previously seemed blocked can appear. Remember, alignment precedes manifestation. It is not a guarantee, but it does increase coherence between inner state and outer experience. You might ask, how long will this take? There is no fixed timetable. Awakening is not a deadline, it is a process. Some shifts are quick, moments of insight that rearrange a life. Others are slow, like the thawing of a river. If you grow impatient, notice the impatience as another signal. Impatience often comes from the part of you that wants the comfort of certainty. Breathe with it. Offer it the memory that this season is a necessary gestation. There are moments of discomfort that feel like failure, but are actually necessary dissolutions. You may sleep poorly, feel anxious at odd moments, or wonder if you made a mistake. These are not signs of permanent ruin. They are the cost of transformation. When old neural pathways weaken, the nervous system recalibrates. Movement in any direction produces turbulence. That turbulence is messy and temporary. Let me name a few clear markers you might be experiencing, so you can stop pathologizing yourself and start translating your signals. You may be experiencing sudden boredom with former interests. You may feel drawn to solitude, even when solitude terrifies you. You may notice deeper emotional responses to small stimuli. Music brings tears, or a stranger's kindness stays with you for hours. You may find yourself saying, "I don't know," more often, and that space of not knowing begins to feel less like a threat and more like a terrain where something new grows. You will notice that your inner dialogue shifts. Old self-talk phrases, "I should," "I have to," "I need to," soften into invitations like, "I wonder if," "I might try," "I notice." This linguistic shift is evidence of a frequency change. Language organizes perception. As your language changes, so does what you see. The future self writes new sentences in your interior life. Listen for them. At times, you will face a choice between movement that is reactionary and movement that is aligned.
Reactionary movement is loud. It seeks to fill emptiness with action. Aligned movement is quieter. It emanates from tuning and incremental steps. Imagine a musician adjusting the tension of a string little by little until the note is pure. You cannot force tuning. You can only listen and tighten slowly. There is one more dynamic to consider: identity friction. As you shed features of your old map, people around you may react. Some will cheer. Others will feel abandoned or confused. That reaction is not a judgment of your worth. It is an honest response to mismatch. The ethical route is to act with integrity, communicate when possible, be gentle with unexpected fallout, and stay true to your felt direction. In most cases, the right action is not a dramatic proclamation, but a steady, internal alignment. Now picture the void again, this time as a womb humming with potential. You sit in the middle of it. It is quiet but alive. There is a temperature in your chest that wasn't there before, a small warmth that signals something is forming. It is not always visible. Mostly it is felt. You might describe it as a low humming, a pressure behind the sternum, a sense that the next choice, when made, will feel inevitable. This forming phase is precarious. It needs patience and attention. The future self will ask for evidence by way of small choices. Those choices are not guarantees of success. They are signatures of intent. They say to the field, "I am listening. I will align my steps with this vibration." The field responds not with immediate fireworks, but with incremental shifts. A conversation that goes differently. A coincidence that opens a thread. Over time, these small shifts accumulate into a new arrangement of reality. You might be tempted to measure progress by external markers. Resist this urgency. The inner metric is different: coherence, quiet confidence, the degree to which you feel less frantic. The outer metric is noisy and comparative. Measure yourself gently on the inside. Ask, am I less reactive? Do I feel more centered? Am I choosing from curiosity rather than fear?
Your answers will map the terrain better than any external scoreboard. There will be dark nights in this process, nights when emptiness feels endless, nights when doubt churns like a sea. Those nights are part of the gestation. Think of the seed that must sit in darkness to sprout. If you can befriend these nights, they lose some of their terror. Bring small rituals, a deliberate breath, a short sentence you repeat, the tiny habit of placing a hand on your chest and naming one feeling. These rituals are not magic spells, they are anchors. They tell the nervous system, you are safe enough to continue. Safety is not an absolute state. It is a felt condition you create. You build safety with practices that keep you present. Even a 3-breath pause when you are overwhelmed resets your nervous system more than proving your competence to the world. The future self values safety because it allows opportunity to unfold without panic. As you grow into this new frequency, you will begin to notice rearrangements in the outer world. Opportunities that used to be invisible start to shimmer. Conversations introduce new ideas. Someone mentions a phrase that lands in your chest like a signal. These moments are not always grand. Often they are small, tender, and easy to miss. Your attention is the amplifier. When you notice, you increase the volume of what is coming toward you. There is a practical intelligence here. Treat impulses as invitations. Test them in small ways and record the outcomes. Keep a loose journal of impressions. Write down the flashes and the tiny alignments. Over time, you will see pattern. Patterns show you the direction. Patterns, not drama, reveal the next steps. You are likely to face a paradox: loneliness alongside intense connection. Loneliness can be a symptom of growth when you are moving beyond the people who matched your old map. At the same time, you will feel moments of deep connection, an email, an encounter, a chance meeting, where you feel seen in a new way. Allow both. One is a cost, the other is the breadcrumb. Eat the breadcrumb and rest when the cost is high.
If you are wondering about belief, do you need to believe in specific doctrines for this to be true? The answer is no. These processes are experiential, not doctrinal. You do not need to sign on to a religion or a system. You only need to begin to notice the internal signals and to respond with curiosity and restraint. Your future self need not be proven to anyone. It only needs to be felt and attended enough to grow roots. This brings us to an important practice: recognition. Recognition is the act of acknowledging that a shift is underway. It is a soft, clear naming. Something within me is changing. Recognition reduces resistance because it converts confusion into observation. Observation gives you agency. Agency is not control. It is the capacity to choose how you respond. Recognition is the first tool for choosing wisely.
You might practice recognition simply by saying the phrase in your head when you feel the map tear. I am in transition. Allow those words to live in your body, not as a slogan, but as fact. Name the sensations that accompany the phrase: tightness in the neck, a low humming, a sense of clearing. Language anchors the sensation into consciousness. Once anchored, you can decide whether to act from reactivity or from intuition. At times, the future self will ask you to experiment with gentleness. Try a small declaration that sits in your chest. It can be private. It does not need to be shared. Speak it to yourself in the morning like a small prayer or a promise. Notice how your body responds. If the declaration carries weight in your chest, it is likely aligned. If it feels like a costume, let it go. The difference between alignment and pretense is felt, not argued. Now feel the contour of pressure again. The map is tearing, the void is forming, sensitivity rises, and subtle guidance draws near. You have been chosen in the poetic sense, by the universe to receive this message, because something in you is ready to listen. That choosing is not a badge of superiority. It is simply a marker that the field is paying attention to this figure that you are becoming. There is an ethical hum here too. As you change, do so with kindness. Your growth will affect others. Let your transitions be gentle when possible. That gentleness does not mean sacrificing your boundaries. It means acting with integrity even when movement is necessary. Integrity will soften consequences, but does not remove them. Be ready to make tough calls with compassion. Before we move deeper into how the emergence unfolds, pause and notice how you feel now. Is there a shift when you name these processes? Does some lightness arrive? Does a small pressure in your chest answer like a bell? Let that noticing be enough for a moment. Your presence is the first field of cultivation. There is more ahead. The next phase will bring clearer signals, more persistent synchronicities, and the beginning of outer reorganization. But before the emergence can fully form, the womb must thicken its walls. That thickening takes an inner labor, moments of practice, of saying no gently, of trying small impulses, of tending boundaries. It is in this labor that your future self moves from possibility to presence. You are at an edge, generous and fragile. You have been chosen to see these words because the timing in you is right. The universe, which in this language means the field of possibilities around you, has nudged you. Now, the next requirement is patience with a pulse. Patient practice, not passive waiting. Small acts of alignment create traction. Soon, the signals will intensify. You will experience flashes of clarity that demand a response. When that time comes, you will need to discern between the movement of panic and the movement of alignment. For now, in this breathing space, learn to listen. Practice the simple habit of checking in with the body before you make major decisions. Practice saying yes to small impulses and no to the loud attempts to fill the void. Trust the process is not the same as trusting any outcome. Trust here is more like a partnership, soft, provisional, curious. It says, I will experiment. I will pay attention. I will choose with care. As you practice in this way, you will feel steadier. The current of your future self will become less of a whisper and more of a melody you can follow. And when that melody rises, you will know how to step. For now, let the tearing be seen as a necessary clearing. Let the void hold its purpose. Let sensitivity be a tool rather than a burden. Let the future self's nudges be invitations to test small steps. We will go deeper into how the outer world rearranges around you, into the specific patterns of synchronicity and the subtle signatures of timing, and into the practical rituals that help stabilize the shift. But before that, there is one more layer to prepare: the act of distinguishing between reaction and resonance, between urgent movement to fill and patient movement to align. This distinction will be the hinge on which much of your next months or years turns. So notice now where you were tempted to act from fear. Name one small fear and imagine responding with curiosity instead. Imagine the fear like a small dog barking at the gate. You don't need to feed it, but you can acknowledge its presence and close the gate gently. This tiny mental rehearsal primes your system to choose less from frantic filling and more from aligned testing. Hold that image for a moment: the gate, the dog, the future river sending its current back. Breathe into the place in your body where the future self's call is most alive. You may feel a warmth, a pressure, a quiet insistence. Place your attention there like a compass. In the next part, we'll begin to track those synchronicities, to name the precise ways the outer rearranges, and to learn the small rituals that help you anchor the shift. For now, keep that compass warm under your hand. Let your hand rest there. Keep the compass warm under your palm. Let the sensation of attention be a small lamp that illuminates the next steps. Now watch for patterns. Synchronicity rarely shouts. It arranges itself like breadcrumbs over time. You will notice the same phrase in different places. A line from a book lands in a conversation you had yesterday. A melody from a childhood memory plays at the exact hour when a decision presses on you. These are not always miracles in the headline sense. Often they are quiet confirmations, the field answering back in small increments. Pay attention to repetitions. Repetition is one of the clearest signatures of the future self's current. When the same symbol, number, or idea reappears, lean in. Make a mental note or write it down. Put a small dot on your calendar. The act of noticing turns coincidence into signal. You do not have to interpret the whole pattern right away. You only need to observe and remain available. A practical way to do this is to keep a simple notebook near where you sit most. Label it Noticed. When something unusual recurs, a dream image, a sentence, an impulse, write a date and a one-line note. Over weeks, these notes will form a constellation. Constellations are easier to read than single stars. They show you directions without demanding you walk them immediately. Your attention is the antenna that amplifies what the field sends. Small, sustained attention expands the channel. That is why the micro-practices matter. The breath, the pause, the little no before you agree to something. These are not dramatic. They are scaffolding for sensitivity. They allow the future self's voice to be heard above the habitual noise. Timing is subtle. Sometimes a sign arrives and feels premature. You get an idea, but the material conditions are not present. That is okay. The idea is a seed, not an instruction to uproot your life. Plant it lightly in your imagination. Tend it with small actions. Sketch the idea. Read one related article. Mention it to one trusted person if you like. The future self asks you to test more than it asks you to leap. Testing is a form of embodiment. Think of the future self as an architect who sketches a new building. You are the builder who tries a few bricks to see the fit. Try low-stakes experiments. If your impulse is to write 3 sentences and leave them in a drawer. If your impulse is to speak with someone about a project, have a short exploratory conversation without committing to anything. These experiments give your nervous system data. They do not demand an all-or-nothing bet. Boundaries will be crucial. As sensitivity increases, your bandwidth may feel limited. You will need to conserve energy for what matters. Saying no becomes a spiritual practice as much as it is practical hygiene. No does not have to be unavailable or rude. It can be tender and firm. I appreciate you, not right now. Practice saying it privately first. Notice your body's response. The more you practice respectful no's, the more space you create for the signals that actually belong to you. Discerning what belongs to you versus what is ambient is an art you cultivate through repetition. When an emotion rises, ask, did this originate inside me or did I pick it up from someone else? Breathe into the sensation. Give it a name. If it feels foreign, imagine setting it down like a bag on the floor. See if it stays there. If it fades, it likely wasn't yours. As the outer rearrangement begins, do not expect a parade. More often, you will notice small realignments. A colleague suggests a project that mirrors something you were thinking. A friend stops reaching out in the exact way they used to. A local place you frequented shutters or shifts hours. Each change is data. The world is adjusting to the frequency you are emitting. Analyze less. Feel more. People will respond to your new frequency in different ways. Some will mirror it with curiosity and joy. Others will meet it with fear or confusion. That is natural. The mirror you are trying to find will not always appear in the same room. Be willing to travel, sometimes inward, sometimes outward, to find resonance. Community can be reconfigured. Old friendships can be rebalanced. New ones may arrive from unexpected quarters. When conversations feel mismatched, practice small recalibrations rather than grand explanations. You do not owe a manifesto. A simple shift in how you show up often communicates more than a long speech. If a friend cannot meet your new rhythm, let them go with grace. If someone invites you into alignment, explore gently. Relationships are not moral tests, they are energetic ecosystems. Some ecosystems thrive with your new sunlight, others do not. You will begin to notice a change in the quality of your attention itself. Attention becomes less scattered and more sculpted. You choose what to pour your life into with greater discernment. This does not always look like big change. Many times it is a series of small withdrawals from what no longer fits, coupled with modest commitments to what does. It is less dramatic than a movie montage, and more like a gardener removing weeds one by one. Embodiment is the hinge between inner shift and outer reorganization. Embodiment means bringing the new frequency into bone and muscle and daily routine. It is not an idea only, it is lived. Simple practices help. Move your body in ways that feel energized rather than punishing. Sleep with a consistent window that respects your circadian rhythm. Choose foods that make you feel steady. Spend time in nature if you can. I say these gently because none of them are religious laws. They are small acts of respect toward the vessel that must bear this change. Movement itself is a language. When you shift how you move, you change how you think. Try a short private movement practice, a few minutes of stretching, walking with attention, or dancing in your kitchen. Notice how decisions feel afterward. Movement settles the nervous system and clarifies intuition. It makes the future self easier to hear because you decrease static. Voice matters too. Speak the new sentences you want to live into. Find small declarations that land in your chest and say them aloud once a day. They need not be grand. I am opening to what wants to find me. I choose small steps of alignment. I will listen to the pull in my chest. Saying them aloud anchors them in the body. If a phrase feels inauthentic, change it. Authenticity is not measured by the words you mimic, but by the tone your chest recognizes. Rituals amplify the subtle. Rituals are not theater. They are frames that help your nervous system recognize transitions. They can be short. Each morning, perhaps, you place your hand on your sternum and name one small intention for the day. Each night, you write one line in your noticed notebook. These actions tell the field and yourself that you are listening. If ritual language feels foreign, call these acts markers rather than rituals. The word matters less than the consistency. There is power in maiming the future self. Give it a few defining sentences. You do not need to sketch their entire life. Just describe the flavor of being: steadier, curious, in service, creative, patient. Keep the description short, no more than a line or two, and carry it in your pocket mentally. When you make choices, test whether the choice vibrates with that portrait. Over time, the future self becomes less of a fantasy and more of a habit. When the future self is present as an image, you can have conversations with them in small ways. This is not mystical masturbation. It is a practice of internal consultation. Ask a quiet question before sleep. What is the next small step? Listen for the answer in the kind of impression that is not loud but persistent. The answer may come as a nudging idea in the morning, or as a sudden clarity while you wash dishes. Treat these nudges as invitations to try something small. Integration requires language directed outward. Once you begin to embody small steps, communicate them. Say less and show more. If you need support, ask for specific help in 1 or 2 areas rather than broadcasting a vague request for change. People respond better to precise invitations. If you have a project that requires 5 hours of concentrated work, ask for 1 evening a week where you are not interrupted. If you need emotional space, ask a friend to check in with a text rather than a call. There is also a moral gravity to be mindful of. Do not weaponize growth. Transformation can be intoxicating. It is easy to mistake personal awakening for moral superiority. Keep humility close. Remember that a shift in frequency does not make you better than someone else. It simply changes your resonance. Walk gently in the world. Let your changes be a witness, not a billboard. The body will often tell the truth before the mind does. When you are faced with a decision, check the body first. Where does your attention go in the chest? Where do you feel contraction or expansion? These are not infallible signs, but they are informative. The future self often communicates as expansion, a soft opening, a sense of belonging. The old map often signals with contraction, a tightness, or a rush to keep things stable. Practice distinguishing the two. As you begin to act, keep a scaffold of reflection. Weekly, review your noticed page and ask, what patterns form? Which impulses blossomed when tested and which faded? Which relationships changed slowly and which changed sharply? Reflection is less about judging and more about pattern recognition. It allows you to calibrate with gentleness. Creativity is a highway for the future self. Even if your work is not creative by profession, creative acts rewire you. They allow the nervous system to play in new patterns. Sketch, compose a short melody, write a fragment of a story, cook a new recipe. These acts are laboratories for novelty. They cultivate experimentation and make the future self plausible. There will be times when you must make practical adjustments: sleep, finances, family responsibilities. Treat these domains with strategy rather than avoidance. If financial anxiety rises, take small steps to stabilize. Create a simple budget, consult a trusted advisor, or rearrange your time so emergency tasks are handled. These moves are not about control over outcomes. They are about making room for the gestation. The point is to reduce panic so the inner work can proceed without constant firefighting. Do not confuse movement with alignment. Emergency changes made from panic rarely hold. The future self invites steady testing. Think in terms of iterations, not revolutions. Over time, these iterations create momentum. Momentum arrives not from huge leaps, but from persistent nudging in a consistent direction. As momentum accrues, you will notice that your inner narrative softens. The stories that once ran like tapes, "I'm not enough,"
I should have done X, loosen their grip. This loosening is part of the reconfiguration. When those stories arrive, name them, write them down, and then ask what the future self would say in response. The future self's language is often kinder, less reactive, more experimental. Speak that way to yourself. There will be moments of social friction. Some people may project their fears onto you. Others will idealize you and expect you to be a map for them. Set boundaries softly. You can hold compassion for where others are while also protecting your capacity to change. It is ethical to be honest about your limits. You can love people without remaining in dynamics that no longer serve both of you. At times, the reorganization will feel lonely. That loneliness is not a sign you are doing it wrong. It is a side effect of frequency change. Allow it its full presence. Tell someone you trust, I am in a season of change, I may be less available. Naming your process to a reliable person reduces misunderstandings. Choose someone who listens without trying to fix you. Sleep, when possible, deserves special attention. Sleep is when consolidation happens. The nervous system integrates small pieces into new circuits during rest. If you can, protect blocks of sleep and let them be as regular as you can reasonably make them. If sleep is fractured, create a small ritual before bed. Dim lights, a 5-minute breath practice, writing one line of gratitude. These actions tell your nervous system that you are entering integration time. There will be tests. Old patterns will invite you back. People from your former life may reappear with old roles.
The temptation to return to a familiar map can be strong, especially when the new map is still faint. When these invitations arrive, test them against small alignment questions. Does this choice allow me to feel more coherent? Does it honor the small commitments I have made to my future self? If not, you can say no without drama. When the outer world begins to rearrange more noticeably, a job shift that fits better, a relationship that clarifies, a creative project that gains momentum, celebrate the small wins. Gratitude is not just a feel-good habit, it is a mechanism that helps your nervous system register progress. Simple acknowledgments, lighting a candle, writing 3 things you noticed that moved, anchor changes in your felt reality. Remember that your timeline is not solitary. The field that knows you as a potential has many threads. Sometimes help arrives in unexpected forms. A book that lands at the right time, a person who introduces you to a resource, a course that opens an inner chord. When help arrives, vet it with your felt sense. Does it amplify true alignment, or does it seduce you into quick fixes? Choose resources that encourage experimentation over promises. As the new frequency thickens, you will find yourself more present in ordinary moments. The future you is not always glamorous. It shows up in steadier mornings, a clearer choice at a grocery store, a kinder tone when a conversation heats. These small demonstrations of integrity are the scaffolding for larger change. They tell your nervous system that you are trustworthy, and trust is the soil in which new possibilities grow. Before we approach the ritual that will anchor this phase, there is one more internal posture to cultivate: radical curiosity. Curiosity is the antidote to panic. When you are curious about a discomfort, you extend it the space to transform. Ask, what is this feeling trying to tell me? How old is this voice? Where does it come from? Curiosity shifts the energy from judgment to exploration. Now prepare for a short ceremony of recognition and anchoring. This is optional. It is symbolic. It is meant to ground what you have noticed and to call the future self forward with kindness. Find a quiet place. Sit comfortably. Place one hand over your heart and the other on your belly, or simply fold your hands where they rest naturally. Close your eyes if that feels safe. Take 3 slow breaths. On the first breath, inhale, noticing. On the second, breathe into the place in your chest that felt like a compass. On the third, breathe out any urgency to arrive quickly. When you're ready, in your mind or aloud, say a short declaration that links you with the field and the future self. You can use this sentence or something similar that lands in you. I accept the universe's guidance toward my next awakening.
Say it once. Pause. Notice the sensation in your body. If there is a small resonance, repeat it softly 2 more times.
If it feels hollow, rephrase until the words ring true. Keep it simple. The declaration is not a contract with fate. It is a signal to yourself that you are open to listening. If you feel moved, you may choose to anchor this act further. Place a small object nearby, a stone, a ring, a simple note, anything that can remind you of this moment. When doubt rises, touch the object and remember your declaration. If public integration encourages you, consider writing the sentence in the comments below. If you choose to share, use these exact words if they feel right. I accept the universe's guidance toward my next awakening. This is optional. It is symbolic. No sharing is required for the change inside you to be real. After the declaration, rest for a minute. Open your eyes when you are ready. Notice any shifts. Maybe nothing dramatic will happen immediately. Maybe something will change. Both responses are normal. The point of the ritual is not theatrical fireworks. It is alignment. It tells your nervous system you are participating in your own emergence. As you move forward from here, remember the rhythm. Notice, test, reflect, repeat. Allow the process to be patient and persistent. When you feel shaky, return to the breath and to the little practices that have been scaffolding your sensitivity. Keep your noticed notebook handy. Return to it weekly and watch the constellation grow. And one last care. Treat your future self with companionship rather than impatience. Imagine not an impossible ideal, but a close friend who knows you and leans into possibility with you. Invite them to tea. Ask them questions. Let them be tender when you are clumsy. This tone of companionship will steady you when the seasons feel long. You were chosen, not in the sense of being singled out above others, but in the sense that the timing in you is met by timing in the field. That meeting is a generous event. Receive it with gratitude and with the practical humility of someone who knows growth is both slow and sacred. When you are ready, if this message landed and you feel called to mark the moment, write in the comments these words: I accept the universe's guidance toward my next awakening. Do so only if it feels true. Let the comment be your soft footprint, a small public signature of a private commitment. No obligation, no pressure, just a choice. Carry this last image with you, the map tearing, the void forming into a womb, a low hum in your chest, the river of the future self sending back a patient current. Keep your hand warm on that compass. Keep noticing, keep testing, keep choosing small acts of alignment. You are not lost. You are being guided. The universe chose you to see this before your next awakening. Let that land, and then let your life answer, one gentle, steady step at a time.